Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations, your authority in navigating the world of homeschooling diverse learners. Featuring Peggy Ployhar from SPED Homeschool, Annie Yorty from AnnieYorty.com, Leilani Melendez from Living with Eve, Stephanie Buckwalter from eLARP Learning, and Dawn Jackson from Dawn Jackson Educational Consulting and Tutoring. With over 75 years of combined homeschooling expertise, experiences, and perspectives, this group is eager to share their wealth of wisdom to empower your homeschooling journey. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and get ready for insightful discussions, valuable insights, and practical tips. Give your homeschool the power boost it needs to successfully educate the unique learners in your home.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Today, we are going to talk about happy mothering, embracing God's love, and navigating the chaos of your calling. And my guests today are Tricia Goyer and Sherri Seligson. I'm hoping I pronounced that right.
That's great. Seligson works.
Okay. Tricia is an award-winning author, homeschooling mom of 10, and passionate advocate for faith-driven storytelling with over 90 books across genres, including historical fiction, memoirs, and parenting guides. Tricia's work often explores themes of courage and let's see. I lost my place. Family and faith. She has a unique talent for bringing historical characters to life, weaving in timeless her journey, truths that resonate with modern readers. Known for her warm, personal voice, Tricia shares her life's journey and lessons through her writing, speaking, and podcast, encouraging others to find strength and hope. A believer in the power of community, she also supports foster care and adoption and finds joy in nurturing the next generation of storytellers. Sherri is a marine biologist and science author, and has written several science textbooks, homeschool curricula, and science apologetics devotional. Sherri travels throughout the world to film science in action, sharing the wonders of God's creation. An international speaker, Sherri encourages families on topics such as marriage, family, relationships, and apologetics of studying God's creation. She lives in Florida with her husband, David, who travels with her as an adventure videographer. When they are at home, she enjoys spending time with her 4 adult children and their families, plus doing anything that science geeks enjoy. Well, welcome, ladies, to the show. I'm excited to have you here and to talk about this really important topic. So I'm excited for the conversation. So thanks for taking time out of your schedules.
Great to be here.
Yeah. It's I know so many people, we just struggle with a calling that is so countercultural now. And I love this topic, and I love that we're going to discuss this. And you guys bring in so much wisdom. I know I hate that word, being old myself, but it's true. And so sit tight, audience. These ladies have so much wealth of information and years of experience to share with you. And I hope you just absorb it up, because it's a tough calling to be in as homeschool moms. We feel like we're wasting away our years, but I want these ladies to encourage you today that this is not a waste of time. This is your calling. This is your purpose. And you are doing great things, and God is calling you to greater things if you stay where you're called. And so yeah, I just thank you for being here. And I know you ladies have a new book that is coming out soon, and people can pre-order it. So let's talk a little bit about that at the beginning, and then we'll wrap up at the end too. I know I'm going to be able to share the link in our show notes too. So how did that book actually come about?
Well, I'll start with that one because we were at a homeschool moms retreat. Mm-hmm. And the fun thing was that we got to hear each other speak. So usually as a speaker, you travel and you're in different rooms. You never get to hear each other. Right. But this, we're all in the same room. And I heard Sherri for the first time, and just the way she described creation and science. And that really is what solidified my relationship with God, is understanding that they can connect. Like, it makes sense that God created all these things. And I heard her speak. I'm like, oh my goodness, I love you. Like, you're amazing. I think it was
It
at
was
the retreat.
mutual, let me just
Yeah.
say.
At the retreat, I'm like, Sherri, we need to do something together. Because I love words and the flow of words and being creative. And she just is like, so many facts and all these things. And so we try to meld that together. And so that's how, like, I think I probably ran up to you in line, like wanting to talk to you. I'm like, we need to do something together.
Yeah, we just kind of took we both have these different areas of passion, and it combined together in this, and it's just a super fun book for kids and families that will
Mhm.
just help them see God's wonder, the wonder of His creation, and encourage them in their lives too. So there's more than
Yeah.
just a story, but it's a story with a purpose that brings everybody along and has great conversation starters. So yeah, it was just a wonderful opportunity to just start brainstorming together. And this book is the
Yeah.
first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And yeah, you just don't know what those connections are going to lead to. And that is so neat. So you're bringing in both your diverse backgrounds and gifts, and being able to share those and then share them with others, which is
Mhm.
such a blessing. That is so cool. I can't wait for it to come out. I'm a science geek myself. I have a degree in physics. So
Ah, yay.
use it in ways. But yeah, but our topic today is mothering, which, I mean, you've cultivated these gifts through your own motherhood, and motherhood is often described as chaotic yet beautiful. How have you both learned to rest in this calling and find peace in the day-to-day chaos, which we all know exists?
Yeah, well, I'll start that one off. I think that perspective was always
Hmm.
the word that I would focus on, because it is so easy to get caught up in the details, the frustration, the chaos, like you were saying, and
Yeah.
lose perspective of why God has me where He has me, what He has for me in this moment. I would focus on what's the next thing. What's the next thing God has for me, even if it's change the
Mm,
diaper, clean up the spilled
right.
milk, and then move forward with that. And the reminder that
Mm,
God has called me to this, and
yeah.
He's with me. So if He's called me to this, and He's called you to be a parent, if there are children in your house, I mean, that's
So true.
obvious, right? And so then He is going to be there, and through that beautiful journey, He's teaching us, He's working in us. It is so much more than raising and training our kids. It's
Mm.
a lot of it is how much I learn, how, character and homeschooling, I learned all those things. So I think perspective was the big deal for me, to step back. What is for today? What is for this moment? And then move forward during those crazy times.
So
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
What about
right in
you,
the middle
Tricia?
of it. I'm right in the middle of it. So we have 10 kids. We've adopted 7 of
Wow.
them. So our biological are all in their 30s, 35,
Mhm.
32, and 30. And then we have from the ages of 24 down to the ages of 14. And
Okay.
so I'm still homeschooling 3 up, 2 14-year-olds and a 17-year-old. I was doing an algebra test right before, and I'm like, guys, I really got to go. I need to go do this interview. And so in my day, it's everything from working on a book project to taking a child to a basketball practice. Right. We were
Mm.
just doing an algebra test. I was meal prepping this morning because we have a basketball game and youth group and a harvest party and a play. So every night this week is full. So
Wow.
I'm still in the middle of it. And what I realize is, when it seems like this day is not going well, why is that? First of all, because I had expectations. It really is. There's nothing wrong with the day. Like, there's these things that
Right.
happen. It's a day's a day, but it's my expectations of I'm going to get 500 words written before my kids
Right.
wake up, and that doesn't happen. And so, really, it's just
Right.
looking in the moment, like God is here in this moment. It's
Mm.
only my expectations that got me feeling like this day isn't going well. It's a perfectly good day. Like, no one else has a bad attitude because they didn't have the expectations of mom writing 500 words. And so, really, like Sherri was
Right.
saying, the perspective of things and the
Mm.
peace knowing that whatever struggles, part of it is my kids seeing how I handle those struggles. And we all know, as homeschooling parents, there is the education that comes from the books, but there's the education of how does mom handle if someone cut her off
Yeah.
in traffic, or all these different things. And so it's daily taking a deep breath. Also, my grandma, who is 95, lives with us. So it's caring for
Wow.
her. And so now that I have adult kids, I see that like God's plan for this has been just him working in me and seeing my kids seeing that. And then I see that
Yes.
reflected. My daughter, we just got a pineapple. She pulled it out. She starts chopping it up. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And she goes, Mom, I see you do it all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, they're watching. And it was just a reminder to me, like they watch how I cut up a pineapple, but they watch my actions, interactions, and also how I'm walking out and serving God. And I think that's important. Our kids need to see us following God's will for us, using our talents and our gifts for his glory, coming alongside us as we serve or volunteer. I helped start a crisis pregnancy center years ago. My older kids were there. And so as they see us walking out, that's just as much as education as any of the, we were just doing algebra or we were just doing science. It's all part of it.
Yeah. Both you answered that beautifully in two different ways, but it's really, it's that pulling out. It's not allowing the chaos to overwhelm. It's allowing God to set the direction, the pace, and then realizing you're calling in the middle of that and not letting that overwhelm how you respond, how, you let the day go. Just beautiful perspective, because it's so easy to not do that, and it is a process as well. We don't automatically do that, but over time we can become better at it, and I think that's a great lesson to be reminded of those types of things. So, Sherri, in a world that often values productivity, how do you balance scientific work with the slower, more relational aspects of motherhood? I know I struggled in this area a lot. Have you found ways to invite calm in both realms?
Yeah, again, it's perspective. I look at what is my main goal, and I can tell you, just like Tricia said, there were days where I felt like this day was a wash. This day was a failure.
Yeah.
I don't know how many moms struggle with just feeling like I'm a failure. I'm messing up
A lot.
everywhere.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's part of that's I'm not saying that failure is a good thing or something that we should say, okay, today's the fail day. But part of the journey involves that. And so again, I would step back. Okay, I felt like today was a total wash or a total mess, and I'd have to go and apologize to my children or whatever it was.
Right.
Apologize to the Lord for not trusting him. But what was my main goal? My main goal, raising my children, building relationships with my children, modeling a relationship with the Lord for them so that they can see that to me is more important than any academics, any, meals that we got. I used to tell other moms, cereal for dinner is cheaper than therapy for mom. The things that are
That's
big
great.
versus the things that just we can let go. And in the grand scheme of things, that's okay. Your kids aren't going to go back and remember that mom kept a perfect house or made 4-course dinners, or even taught, fabulous lessons that they were, sitting on the edge of their seat every single time. It was more of, we got to enjoy being with each other. And so modeling that relationship, and again, what's the most important? What was my prime thing to come away from maybe this week or this month, not today?
That's good.
Because today is, again, if today was a fail day or I felt just totally out of it this week, knowing that it's over time, it's a slow marathon that takes time and it's ups and downs and feeling frustrated. I didn't do a lot of things extra outside the house when my kids were really young, because I really felt like that was my priority. And so I had to let go of some things. And this is something we talk about too. I felt like, was I putting my career on hold? Was I putting my career to the side? No, because God wanted me doing this. It was a promotion to motherhood from what I was doing before.
Oh, that's good.
And so it really was. And what's he going to teach me in this season that will help me in the next assignment, the next season that he has? And so as my kids got older, we could do a little bit more, and I could ask them to do stuff, to participate with me. Like Tricia was saying, I would have them come to conferences with me. I would give them some of the stuff I wrote and said, I would like you to edit this for me and tell me where my dangling participles are. Because that brings them along and helps them see what I was doing. But if it took me away from my primary objective, I would have to say no. And Lord, you're going to use this for me for some reason for the future. And a lot of it was character building in me. And skill building. I write now. I'm a writer, and I had horrible writing skills, and I learned how to write by teaching my children how to write as all four
That's
of them went
amazing.
through that, not knowing that
Yeah.
that's what God was going to do. So he
Hmm.
uses that time where we feel like we're on a plan B for our life. It's not a plan B. It's
Yeah.
God's plan A. And so I just want to
That's
encourage you.
so good. Yes. Yeah. So true. So many nuggets of wisdom in there that, yeah, we have to embrace it. We can't just say, oh, this is just getting in my way. And I know, Tricia, you kind of, you, you lent to that too in your previous answer. It is so easy to fall into that trap, but yet it is a trap. It takes you away from your primary calling and your calling for your family. Tricia, with such a large family, you likely face countless daily demands. How do you find moments to slow down? And what practices have helped you embrace a season of restfulness amid your calling as a mother?
I don't know if I've ever had a season of restfulness, so we just have to. We have moments of restfulness. I love my early mornings. So I get up before anyone else. That's when I have my time with my Bible. That's when I have my time writing my thoughts. Those usually end up in a devotion or a part of a book, or like just that time with God for sure. Worship music in the morning when I'm getting ready in the morning, and worship in the car. Anytime we're in the car going someplace, there's worship music on. And it's just a time like they just know. And now my kids will say, can I pick a song? And they know. They go through my playlist, my worship playlist, or they'll hear something like at youth camp and they'll put it on. And so I think with so many people and so many demands, it's not like I even get an afternoon away. There really isn't that. But those moments with God, and sometimes like today, we all went to a family therapy session. We've adopted kids from trauma. We're still working through some of those things, and it would end up being really good. Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah.
But everyone went in the house, and I sat in the car for probably like 5 minutes, just sitting there, breathing. And it wasn't like anything was wrong. I just needed like a minute, not be surrounded with people, because I knew as soon as we went in, we needed to start working on algebra. And I just sat there and I just prayed, and I thank God for the time in there, for the future, the day to come, for the interview. Like, it's just like, it's capturing those little moments that God is there. And I think sometimes we think we have to wait for a season of restfulness. I was a teen mom. I had my son when I met and married my husband. I became a Christian during my pregnancy. I'm like, oh, I have messed up.
Wow.
God, I need you. So we've had, even from the moment I got married, had a child. My grandma's lived with us since 1999, so 25 years.
Wow.
We've never had a season where it's just John and I. And it was so funny. Last weekend, my kids went to youth camp, all three of the teenagers in the house. Two of my daughters just left as missionaries in Poland. My grandma's still here, but I'm like, oh, we could have a quiet house. It's just grandma. She sleeps a lot. Oh no, my oldest son, who lives an hour away, came with his two kids. Like, all these people just start dropping in our house. That's what we wanted, right? We wanted those relationships with homeschool moms. And so I could have been like, oh man, we wanted, so we got to spend time with our grandkids, just our grandkids and our oldest son. Like, we never get that because we have all the people. So again, it's seeing we're never probably going to have a restful moment for a long time unless we go away on vacation, but capturing that throughout the day can really make a big difference.
Absolutely. Yes. So I don't know if you know this about me, Tricia, but I am the oldest of 14. I have 10 adopted siblings. So my parents did the same as you. And so, yes, I had 10 siblings out of foster care. And so I know your life and all that's involved. And yes, there are moments. I remember, when we're all together as a family, there's moments, but there's not a whole lot of them. But instead of giving into the anxiety of what needs to be done, it's like, I just like close my eyes and say, God, you're here. And how much that changes the perspective of the moment that you're in, and allows you that rest when you don't have long periods of time for that rest. But God gives that rest in even those small moments, that if you just ask. So love that. So for both of you, just in your experience, what are some ways mothers can remind themselves to release control and trust that God is guiding their family's journey. Because, we have twists and turns and surprises and things that we never expected for the way our family would take. And yet, how do we bring that all back? Just in our own mindset, it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
I could start with that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think one thing is we never have control. Even when we think we have control, there's no control.
Yes.
And just realizing that, like, it's okay. And it's funny because I'm the oldest grandchild. So I like order. I like the plan. I like to know things. And then I always like to clean house. Then we adopted 7 children in the span of 5 years.
Yeah.
And trying to keep up with laundry and kids and therapy sessions, it was just a lot. And I remember just like crying and overwhelmed one day. And my husband's like, wait, did you really think we could adopt 7 children and you'd be able to keep the house clean and the laundry? And I'm like, I paused. I'm like, yeah, because and then it was 3. I don't know. And it was just that reality. Like, it's never. And then in the moment, I remember being in the laundry room with literally a waist high pile of laundry, because just everything. I'm like, did you even wear these clothes? I don't even know where all the clothes came from. And then feeling like God whispering, and I love you just as much. I love you just as much. If the laundry is piled up, if the house is a mess, if there's mud all over the floor, like, I love you just as much. And that peace where I don't have to perform. I don't have to have a perfect house. And then grandma, after she hurt herself, we'd have a lot of people coming in and out, therapists coming in and out. And I'm like, this is my house. Like, we live here. And so now it's that release of, it's the people that's important. It's the relationships that's important. It's time together. And so I've almost swayed the other way. I'm like, if the house is a mess, come on in. But it's a good feeling because I don't feel like I have to perform or have to look good for people. Yeah. It's just enjoying the family that we have. And it's always going to be work, and I'm never going to have control, and just kind of riding the waves of whatever storm comes and knowing God is there and that he will still us, even if there's a storm raging around us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to just jump in on that one, especially the expectations part. I feel like that we have a lot of pressures put on us or we put on ourselves that are unrealistic. Again, you adopt 7 kids, you're not going to have Martha Stewart house. It's just the math doesn't work, right?
Why did I realize
we have a lot of servants?
We feel like we need to, or someone calls and says, "Hey, I'm going to drop off your pan that you left at church," and you're like, "Quick, kids, clean the house. We don't want them knowing we live like this." That last minute, because we feel like we have to perform, and I think that trips us up, and that causes unnecessary anxiety, unnecessary stress, and it just makes mom freak out, which makes the kids freak out all the time.
Right.
We have as moms, we have an underappreciated role, an underrated role that really is greater than we think. And so, at the end of the day, I remember my husband at one point, I was just so stressed, and I have severe, horrible pregnancies, and I was pregnant with my last child. And at the time I didn't know she was my last, but anyway, and I got 3 little ones. They're running all over the place. And the house was a disaster. He said, "You know what? You did great today because the kids survived." Everybody, whether they were still in pajamas and there was a mess, not that we have to set the bar low, but we have to set our expectations realistically and encourage others that way too. If you're in the grocery store and you see a young mama who's got a child who's just crying uncontrollably, just a simple word of, "You're doing a great job. Just keep it up." Yeah. That just is encouragement that will lift up her heart, and to be able to be more transparent with others in a safe, and be a safe place for others to be transparent for us. We need that encouragement. We need to show what's behind on the other side of the camera. If we're doing something on Facebook,
right.
We need to show, the Pinterest, the non-Pinterest picture, the one that didn't make it because it shows, the dog who just threw up his breakfast or whatever it is. Those things, it's life. And that's part of it. And it is messy. And our expectations to have everything under control, like Tricia said, are wrong. Those are the enemy's thoughts that get into our heads. So we need to be a place of encouragement for each other, a place of transparency. And the goal needs to be what the bigger picture is, to love the Lord, to model that for our kids, and to build relationships with both him and with them, with our family. And everything else is just on top of that, and it will come. It's not all academics. It's not all even, learning how to do all the chores perfectly, or your kids who spend the day not getting along and you feel like you're wearing that referee shirt all day long. It's
Right.
much more. And so we have to have that mutual encouragement of one another. And that's why I'm happy that you're doing this, Peggy, because you're there for moms to, just refresh themselves by hearing encouragement.
Yeah.
And we need to do that, to let others know, hey, I don't have it all together either, but I know who does. The Lord does. And I'm relying on him.
Absolutely. Yes. And the more that we are transparent with each other, I remember sharing a story years ago of my anger issues, when I was first starting homeschooling, and one mom looked at me and she's like, seriously? I mean, because you can put on a good front, but if you really open up and share where you struggle, people will go, oh man, I do too. And then you have a common bond right there, that you can support one another and realize that, this isn't the end of the world, that someone else is struggling. You have community, and we need that community. And I loved what you said too, Sherri. And I know both of you brought up just how your kids are watching. But when we go into those panic moments where we want to hide everything, we build systems and ideologies into our kids about how we should portray ourselves to others. And I don't think we think about that too much when we're in the reactionary moment, but we need to think about that, is that this is probably a modeling that they're going to take into their own adulthood, with their own issues. Are we teaching them how to hide things or how to share things? And that's huge, because if they don't share, then they're going to shut down. Something bad's going to happen, in their life, and they're going to feel like it's not a safe place in my home to talk about these things, because we got to put on a good front. So I love that you guys addressed that. Sherri, you often marvel at God's creation through science. And how has this appreciation for creation helped you to cultivate a sense of wonder and rest for your family life, even on hectic days?
One of my favorite verses in the Bible, and it's actually I would say it's a physics verse. So you'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
Colossians,
good.
yes, Colossians, it's a quantum physics verse. Colossians 1:17, he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And I love that, because what it is saying is God didn't just create everything. He is the one that's upholding it. He is
Right.
It's in his hand. He is active. He is holding, R.C. Sproul said, there is no maverick molecule. There is no one little thing that goes without God's control, God's awareness. And so that the wonder that we see in creation helps encourage me that God is big enough for any difficulties. He spoke all of that into being. Boom. And it happened. I mean, that's the Big Bang. So the more that we learn about what's in our world, the more magnificent his power is, the more that we see that's out there, because, and he did this, and he did that. And, there's galaxies after galaxies after galaxies out there that we weren't even aware of. Or microscopically, there's, the periodic table of the elements, something that all moms are like, oh, we got to teach that. And kids are like, no, I don't understand. Well, there's a periodic table of subatomic particles now, because even smaller, and based on the order and organization of the way that these subatomic, smaller than an atom, but there's so many little particles that behave in predictable ways, that there's order and organization that showcases a creator. And so that even magnifies even more. And if God is that powerful, who am I to say that he can't give me wisdom to focus on this situation here, and to give this situation over to him, that he knows what, if I've got two children who are struggling to get along, he knows what they need. I can open his word and say, Lord, show us your word that gives us instruction that will help them because I don't know, I don't have it. And that that encourages me in so many ways, because it's a tangible, visible evidence of our maker and our creator that is really present. If he removes his hand from me, I'm falling apart. So
yeah.
quantum physics.
Yes. I expected you to answer about nature and stuff, but I love that. It's
I'm
so
all over the place.
true. Is yes, and there's nothing that escapes, and there's nothing that could be. And we so easily think that we can control everything, that we have so much. I was actually praying about this morning. I'm like, God, I have nothing. um, and I feel like, yeah, I have nothing some days. And yet you've got it all. Why am I stressing over anything? I shouldn't be. You've got a perfect plan and timing and everything in all things. And when we can take that step back, and I know you talked about this very early on, Sherri, it's that step back, that perspective, and just allowing God to be magnified before anything else, because that's when everything else falls into perspective. It's so good. Tricia, in your writing, you focus on courage and resilience. How do you find ways to encourage your own heart with these traits in the middle of motherhood's ups and downs?
Yeah, when I research for like a historical novel, I just find these amazing people, and they never true stories. All my novels are based on true stories that I kind of weave into fiction. They never expected that these hard things would happen in their lives, whether it was
Right.
World War II or surviving the Titanic, or I've written some biblical stories. Hadassah never imagined she'd be queen, Queen Esther. I mean, all these things, these people never expected it. And so really understanding and seeing that in our lives, we might think we know the plan, but hard things come, and you can either turn to God and rise above and become someone who's going to help others, serve others. I mean, those are the stories that get written, right? The ones that are out there hiding Jewish children and making a difference. Or we can kind of go with the crowd. There's many Christians in Nazi Germany that did nothing, or there's those that hid the children and smuggled them out and made a way for humanity. And so I think in our lives, goes back to, I love Henry Blackaby, see what God is doing and join him.
Oh, yeah.
And it really is, what is God asking us to do? So for a season, because I had been a teen mom, I helped start a crisis pregnancy center, and then cared for my grandma. She's been with us again since 1999. And then, okay, in your word, you say to care for the orphans and the widows. Well, we got the widow taken care of. She's in the other room. So caring for orphans. And I really believe that the things in God's word that he tells us to do are things, if he stirs it in our heart, not everyone should go adopt 10 children or 7 children or whatever. Like, Sherri, get busy. Come on, girl. Or whatever. No, I know. But there's going to be something specific to what he calls, and he's going to bring people around us, the messages around us. And if we hear something here and hear something there and read it in God's word, and there's a stirring in our heart, then that's where we can either say, I'm going to believe in faith and take those steps of courage forward, or I'm just going to I'm going to church. I'm being a good person. We can do that. It's our salvation is not based on our works, but I think we experience God so much when we take those steps of faith. And so sometimes courage is just checking, well, what does it take to adopt from foster care? Or, just those little tiny steps that pretty soon you're on a different path than you ever thought of. And so courage isn't always standing up and doing a speech in front of 1,000 people. It's walking across your lawn to your neighbor, or whatever God is calling you to do. I think that is courage, and really looking at that all the people that we see in history books or that we read about. We love the missionary stories. These were all ordinary people who just said, okay, God, I'm here for you. And so, and when we do that, I mean, we have one daughter who moved to Europe when she was 20 years old. Moved over there as a missionary. She's been there ever since. She's married now. We have 2 other daughters that just moved there, 20 and 21, the 2 that we adopted from foster care. And they're over there serving with a wonderful ministry, teaching in a Christian preschool for a year. And reading those missionary stories with them, showing courage, people of faith, they were just like you, and just getting that. And then all of a sudden they're doing it. And it's amazing that when we can let our kids know that whatever God calls you to do, he will provide for you. Have the faith to step forward. It's amazing where he will take them.
Absolutely. Yes. And I love that. It is those little steps
Mhm.
of, instead of saying, no, this isn't my job, my calling. We often think callings are like jobs or, like titles, but they aren't. It's that obedient walk step by step that it puts you into the place that God created you to
Mhm.
be, which is unlike anybody else. And it gets played out each day.
Yeah, and
And
it's not just one thing.
yeah,
I could say
right.
I'm
No.
called to be a
Uh-huh.
writer, so I'm just going to sit at home all day and write books. But
Right, and turn down everything else.
Yeah, what would I write about? Like so much of the things that I've experienced and walked with God in, those become themes for my books because He's acting and moving and working in me. So He's using that mixed with this, and this journey is so completely different. So I think we can kind of get stuck in like, this is what I'm called to do. And He's like, actually, I want you to step out of that and go over here because it's going to help you with what I've called you to do.
Yeah. The Holy Spirit is prompting me. So,
Mhm.
so the life you figured you would have at this point in your life, was it what you thought God would have for you, or was it better?
Oh, me?
Better.
I was planning to
Nothing.
I pictured I wanted to be a school teacher, like teach third grade, have 3 kids, go on vacation to Disneyland once a year. I mean, I don't even know. My vision was right here. And God's like, let me show you this, and you're going to write these books and meet these people and adopt these kids. And the experiences are far beyond anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I
Yeah,
would
I
echo
agree with
that,
you,
the same
Sherri.
thing.
Yeah.
And really it was the means to, by doing the things that I thought,
Mhm.
I didn't think this is the direction I was going to go. God
Right.
called me to leave my job at Disney World as a marine biologist and be home with my children. And then He called us to homeschool. And I'm like, as if we weren't weird enough, right? Let's
Yeah.
just do that. And so we did. And again, then if you get pegged as a science person in the homeschool arena, everybody's like, they throw their children at you. Please teach my kids science. And so I started doing
Right.
little co-ops in our house, and we did different things, co-op and stuff. And then God would open up the next assignment, the next thing. And
Right.
I'm like, well, I have no clue where I'm going from here, but okay. Just like you were saying with Blackaby, Tricia, God's working here. This opens up. We pray about it. My husband like, okay, this sounds like a reasonable thing. So then we move next to the next thing. And it's just, most of the technology that we have today wasn't even available when I had my dream of what I was
Right.
going to do. I was like, I don't
Uh-huh.
know, that internet was just a
Yeah.
baby at the time. So who knows what God has for each of you, each of those who listening, for us, even 5 years from now, it could be something completely different, but He's using what experiences we have today, what challenges we walk through today, what things we rely on Him for today to build in us whatever skills for the next assignment that He has for us.
So true. Yeah, I look back and go, how miserable I would be had I gotten my wish to stay as an engineer and send my kids to private school. And I would not be experiencing what I'm experiencing today. I never saw myself hosting a podcast. That was a child's idea.
Aw.
And now, this is only my part-time job, but part-time, I run another business. I'm actually an aerialist, and I teach kids how to perform and do aerial acrobatics, and I
So
perform
cool.
myself. So
Yeah.
that was not in the cards at all, as far as what I saw, and in doing it to worship music and just spreading God's love and light throughout our community. God will surprise you. And I love that you both brought up Henry Blackaby, because it was his book, Experiencing God, that brought me to faith. And it's such an amazing resource.
It is.
So yeah, just where is God working? What is He doing? Can I be, can I kind of see, take the time to step back and see where He's at work versus where I want to be.
And we never know what God will want to do with our kids. So I remember with starting this crisis pregnancy center, we'd be there and they'd be helping me fold stuff and babysitting for teen moms. It's just like other homeschool kids are going on field trips and doing all this stuff, and you guys are here folding baby clothes and going to fundraising. But my daughter's heart for people that maybe other people would turn their nose up at or not give a second glance at. Now she's in Europe, just ministering to people and talking to people, and we'll have conversations with anyone. It's amazing. And it was one of those moments when I felt like, what am I doing? And it was like God stirring in my heart, like, I'm doing this for you for some, like a little bit, but I'm doing this for her. And she was like a 12-year-old girl sitting on her computer, right, working on her math assignment. It was like that moment. He just gave me this little glimpse, like, maybe all this that I'm having you do is so that she can see, because I have something planned for her. And now I to see these adult kids. I was able to write a novel with my son who's 30 now. Like, all these things that you're just trying to, like, let's finish this math homework, please, or whatever it is. And you're just trying to, like, our vision is so little this. And then he's like, I have so much for you and whoever you're going to impact, and for them and whoever they're going to impact. And now to see my grandchildren following God, it's just this ripple effect, but we just have to be obedient. And it might be crazy, the things that we feel he's stirring in our heart, but it's for a purpose.
Yeah. And just really quick off the top of that, the experience that each child has in their homeschool experience or years, it's going to be very different from one to the next, you know, and we feel we shouldn't have to feel like we've got to do the exact same thing for each child, because they're all different. God's got different plans for each one, and whatever, and trusting that what they get exposed to and what classes are available when and what things are all part of his plan for them. And so when you've got a teacher who's great in their co-op, who's teaching, I don't know, language arts, and she retires, don't freak out, because the next one might be perfect for the next child. And I saw that with my kids, just things that were opportunities that opened up for some and not the others. God knows what he has for them, and just ask him to show you that, and to open your eyes to what would be the wisest choices for each of your children, because his plans for them are specific as well.
Right. And all of us having adult children, we know how different their paths become as they leave our house. So yes, that is so true. Are there any scriptures or words of wisdom that have been an anchor for you in finding just your purpose, your calm, just in the shifting seasons of motherhood as well as homeschooling?
Yeah. I love Luke 19. It talks about Zacchaeus. And this also comes from experiencing God, by the way. But I just remember it's somewhere in that Henry Blackaby talks about, because Jesus had the crowds pressing in. And then he saw Zacchaeus and he says, Zacchaeus, I'm going to your house today. And when I was working with teen moms, it's like all their needs are overwhelming. It's like, Lord, show me who's the Zacchaeus, who is like, I'm going to your house. And then now with 10 kids, like, every one of them has a need. Like, there's something going on. They need someone to talk to. They need a prayer. But like, show me the one who I need to go on errands with me, have a special day, just sit down with a conversation, or whatever. Call up this child I haven't heard from in a couple of days. God knows the one, and he will put us on our heart. So when all the needs are pressing, to say, like, and I'll say, like, show me the Zacchaeus, the one that I'm going to your house, and you just have that target on who it is. And God will do that. He will show you.
That's really good.
Yeah, I think for mine, I'm thinking, and you talked about rest and calm, and I think of the verse in Matthew where, come all you who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest. And for me, the weary and the burdened, that's what caught my attention in that verse more than anything, because overwhelm, busyness, we all feel weary or burdened about many different things, and some of them are not even real things. They're not actual things I'm stressed out about or freaking out about or anxious about, something that I'm perceiving that's not even actually true, or a fear of something that's not going to happen. And if we know that God identifies, you are weary, you are burdened, I have rest for you. It's not a new thing. We can calm and quiet our souls, not because our circumstances are peaceful, or our to-do lists aren't checked off, but we in that burden, in that weariness, God is a trustworthy, faithful provider. He invites us to come to him, to rest in his arms. So he knows we're overwhelmed. He knows we get weary. I mean, weariness is, I think they go together, burdened and weary. We become weary because of our burdens. And, we may have an assignment in our life or a certain season where there's a job loss or there's an illness or one of our children is ill, and that can get exhausting and tiring. We feel like we need to do something for the others who have to walk through it with us. And there's all kinds of struggles, family members who need us, grandma who moves in like you have, Tricia. And we become weary and think of it as a burden, but God's like, weariness and being burdened are a part of walking in this life. And yet I am here to give you rest. So come to me. He's inviting us. He's like, I'm here. My lap is here. I'm going to give you the rest that you need. And it may be 2 minutes while you are in the bathroom away from the children. And even then the notes come under the door.
Right. Exactly.
But that is the moments of, Lord, just a moment in your day. You are here for my rest. I am resting in you. I don't see how it can be restful, but I am resting in you. Can I crawl into your lap this minute and just give me that rest? And he is there. He is there for us. And we need to be reminded of that regularly.
Yeah. When I was having an especially hard day, my friend Amber, who I'm like, I need a prayer. And she said, well, overwhelm is a choice. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But like we can choose to be, I know, thank you. And I every day when I start to feel that, there's so much, because we can either go over all the things that we're not getting done, that we need to be done, all the tasks, or we can like, well, in this moment, I'm doing this thing. All that'll be waiting there, and I could just lean into God. And so every time I start feeling that, overwhelm is a choice. I do not have to be overwhelmed. I can remember that I can only do what I can do, and God is here, and it's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Such great wisdom. I was just having that conversation with myself yesterday. Like, well, that to-do list did not get done, but maybe God has plans for tomorrow. So that's just the way it goes. So Sherri, in your global travels, you've likely seen both peace and intensity in nature. How have the experiences of experiencing God's world and just his natural wonders helped you approach life just in general, as well as motherhood, with more calm and confidence?
I would say regarding that, it's the ebb and flow that caught my attention when you said that. The cyclic nature of the world is carefully balanced. We've got food webs, we've got weather cycles, we have planetary orbits. All of those things are natural and necessary for us. God did them for us. We even need, like, the planet Jupiter. We need the planet Jupiter to keep the Earth in orbit. If Jupiter disappeared, we would probably die. So those things they're there for us. I know, right? Praise the Lord, Jupiter. Never need to be saying that, did you? But it's there for us. It takes the hit for like things that come from outside our solar system, and we get pulled into its gravity. But I can rest then in the omniscient God, who's, again, upholding it all. He can get me through a day with toddler meltdowns, with flat tires, with whatever we've got to do to this, driving here. Homeschool moms are never home, right? We're driving all over the place often. And so God can get me through those days, the ebb and the flow. There's going to be days where you're like, wow, today was a day. It was a crazy day.
Right,
and then there's other days where you're like, today
we all survived. That's one of those days.
Or you get those, wow, we finally caught it. I had 2 children who were sitting down and they were playing together and enjoying. And then you're like,
oh yeah,
what is happening here? And so we have those ebbs and flows, but knowing that is part of the rhythm of our days and the rhythm of our life. And God has made things that way that it doesn't take him by surprise. And it is part of the nature of the world that he's placed us in. So we're going to have days of wins, and we're going to have days of frustrations, and we're going to have hard days, and we're going to have slightly easier days. Sometimes we feel like it's just the hard days. I know that too. There are seasons of that. But understanding that God is there, he's omnipotent, all powerful, he's omniscient, all knowing, and he upholds all of those things. And so he's the one we can rely on to get through those crazy days and the good days too.
Yeah. I think the thought is sometimes is, oh, what did I do to make this day better? And then we could put it all on ourselves. Like, oh,
Yeah.
there was like some secret that I'm now got to figure out. But that is so true, what you just said, that it is those ebbs and flows. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with us.
It
Most of the
doesn't.
time it does.
Yeah.
And we just have to take the goods, the days and the bad days, and just thank God for being there with us in all of that.
And there are days that we can praise. Those bad days are days we can praise the Lord through. I mean, it's
absolutely,
rather than today was a failure day. Today was a day of learning. Today was a day of and it just changes my perspective, rather than I just messed up this whole week. I'm a waste. I'm not a good homeschool mom. I'm not a good mom. I mean, those are just, those don't benefit us at all. So understanding that this is a time of learning, this is a time of progress. The Lord is working in our family. What's he going to do? Lord, what are you doing in this? And I just trust that you're going to do something.
So true. Yeah. So Tricia, in storytelling, it's a way of slowing down and reflecting, really, because you kind of reiterate, what has happened or what is going on, and often point out things that, we would just observe, but not maybe vocalize. Do you find that sharing stories or creating memories together has helped you and your children find more peace in everyday life?
Oh, absolutely. I think because like one of the books we wrote, and I say we because my kids participate, it was the Grumble for a Year. We made a goal to not grumble for a year, knowing we were going to fail, but also knowing what we need to do. So we were reading through like Deuteronomy and Exodus and all the grumbling, and learning prayer and learning gratitude, like all these things. But because we have to stop and think through, okay, this happened, but we did this, and look how God showed up. It just makes you see everything life. And like Sherri was just saying, when we see those problems, what is God doing? And really the problem is the way that takes us to where we need to be. If we had all the money we needed, if we had no problems, we wouldn't need God. But the problem, so because I write that, you write all the problems, then you have to see how God is working. And then you see oh, God showed up because of this problem. We discovered this. Because of this problem, I grew in this character trait or fruit of the spirit. And so just recently, our daughter's car broke down. She was the driver for her. She was 19, and for the driver for her 21-year-old sister who does not want to drive, no interest. So she was driving 2 people to work, 2 people all the time, and her car broke down, and we had no money to replace it. And so she was so distraught. She was crying, and it was completely it was completely destroyed. So we just trashed the car. And I said, Florentina, I really feel like God is wanting you to slow down, and we just need to pray together. What is your purpose in this? He has a purpose in this time. What is it? And it wasn't the day later that we found about this opportunity to teach in Poland. And she got so excited. She was like, Mom, maybe that's it. Maybe if I was still have the car running around everywhere, I wouldn't have even paused to consider this might be something. And because I had just said that the day before, and then they turned in those applications. There's 11 people that applied, only 2 spots open. I'm well, let's walk in faith. Let's go get the passports. We just walked in faith. This was God's plan. But it's because we had seen over and over again, whenever there's a problem, when we turn to God, there's a better solution than we thought. And they're in Poland. And my 21-year-old, was such a difficult high schooler. We adopted her when she was 13. She's like, Mom, I just saw the other day, she's like, I would have never thought, if someone would have told me when I was in high school that when I was 21, I'd be living in Europe, teaching in a preschool, that God would have provided, that I'd be telling others about him. I wouldn't have believed it. I'm I definitely wouldn't have believed it. It was just too much. Can you just wake up and do some homeschool? That's all. We were just trying to get a little bit of homeschool work done.
Keep your head down, make it through the day.
But the more we see the story, the greater story, the whole Bible's the story. The problem is we were separated by God, and he had to make a way through Jesus. Story after story after story after story. So anytime we can see what's your story being written here? There's a problem. It's for a purpose. What are you trying to teach us, show us, grow us in? And the more you do that, okay, Florentina, you don't have a car now. We cannot buy you another car. Let's pray about why this is happening, and God will show up. He is so faithful in that. And so all of our lives are a story. I just happened to pick it out and put it on paper, but all of our lives are a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Yes. And it's those interruptions. We have a choice. We have a choice to get upset or a choice to seek what is in this. I love that. Love that. And yes, that has to become our natural response because it's not our natural response. Our natural response is to grumble, like you said.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, this has been such a good conversation. Before we wrap up, could you tell us a bit about your new book, Wonders of the Ocean Realm? What inspired it, and what do you hope that readers will gain from it? And also where our listeners can find out more about your work and connect with. I know because you both have a lot of resources outside just this new book coming out. So I'd love for you both to share on that.
Okay,
Well,
Sherri, you go. Yeah, you
Wonders
share
of the
first.
Ocean Realm. Okay, it's a for upper middle school. I don't remember the exact ages, but we're saying upper middle school, younger, or no, I'm sorry, upper elementary and middle school age
Hmm.
kids. And it's a story of 5 unique ocean animals. You follow them along through their lives and all of the exciting things that happen to them, some dangers in the oceans. And then you're learning also as you're reading about this, some of the unique features that they have been given in their design to be able to survive the environments where they are. And we follow unique animals, not ones that are just traditionally told in like most kids' stories. We pick some really fun, unique, fascinating
Cool.
creatures that that you get to learn about, and all from all over the world, for all over the globe. So there's academic stuff happening, but it's kind of snuck in there. But
Yeah.
then
Yep.
there's also
Sneaky.
that's right, because we want it to be fun. And so you're following them along in this nature, like a narrated nature story. But then there's lessons, both spiritual lessons as well as academic lessons, and then seeing God's fingerprints through creation. And Tricia has pulled out some beautiful analogies to students. What is God saying to them? And you can take that part if you want, Tricia. Go ahead with
Yeah,
that.
I think it was the funnest book to write because I had my research right there. Like, Sherri, what about this? And what about this? How can we describe this? And she's like, oh, this fin would be described more like this than this. I'm like, perfect. It was like this instant resource. But as
Wow.
a mom, when we adopted the 7 kids and I was homeschooling 7 at one time, I just read aloud a lot. Like, we're just reading because I
Yeah.
cover all of them, like all of them from 5 to 16 at the time. And
Mhm.
so then you would read all these novels but then you get to the science and it was fact, 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 fact.
Mm.
And I see their
Mhm.
minds are just like wandering. And Sherri was the one that came up. I would love us, like, can we do science stories where we're telling a story, but they're learning about the life cycles, the
Yes.
migration, and how this, like the rainbow mantis shrimp that has like
Cool.
a punch, like, Sherri, you get to share all the details, but it's like these amazing creatures that only God could have come up with this, but it's in the
Mm.
story form. So a parent could read it out loud to, like, around a table, or a kid can just read it and they're enjoying the story, but they're learning as they go along. Yes,
Yeah,
That's
fun
so
fact.
Sherri.
cool.
This
Yeah.
this peacock mantis shrimp is able to punch with a speed that's faster than light. It actually creates light. It's so fast from underwater. It's the fastest moving
Wow.
thing in the world, and it can see better than any other creature. The colors that we don't even imagine are perceptible.
Mm.
It has so many more um, cones in its eyes that it's able to see things that
Hmm.
just. Yeah, so it's an astounding creature. It's like the superhero of superheroes, fastest,
Cool.
strongest, supervision, superpower, and it's just a fascinating creature. And yet God made this unique
Right.
animal for a
Absolutely.
purpose, and he serves a purpose where he lives and what he does, and just the coolest animal. So yeah, that's one.
So neat.
Mimic octopus, more than an octopus, does so much more than an octopus could do. So they're just fun creatures that hopefully the stories pull you in and you want to follow them along. So there's 5 of them in the book, and just again, just a fun, rich, sweet, engaging story, a series of stories that we hope all families will enjoy.
Yeah. And that book again is Wonders of the Ocean Realm. And I will share the link. It's you can pre-purchase it now. When is it
Mhm.
actually coming out? Do you guys
The
know?
first week
January,
or second week of January.
yeah,
Yeah.
January 7th, I
Okay.
think
All
is,
right.
yeah.
So
Yeah, but
fairly
it's
soon.
available for pre-order now from pretty much any outlet that's out there that sells books.
Yep, and that's from Tyndale, and,
Tyndale.
so, yeah, we'll share that link in the show notes, and I'm sure when it
And the
converts to
illustrations
being
are
priced,
so
yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, I
The
saw
the
that,
illustrator, we
yeah,
fell in love with the illustrations, the illustrator and what he was able to do. So it's great because he's creating all these things that were in our mind. We're actually able to
Yeah.
see it. It's awesome.
That's so cool. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it and to have our audience enjoy it. I know a lot of parents, especially with kids who struggle, those fact science books, they can really be difficult for them to digest. But I'm excited for this resource to be available for them. So thank you for doing that.
Yes.
So thanks all for joining this conversation. I know we had just a couple comments. One asking if we could please be in Spanish. I don't know about that one. We'll have to consider how that would happen. But I know that we do have the transcripts downloadable, and you may be able to actually get the captions depending on how you set them on YouTube or Facebook in Spanish. So that may be an option for you. But I know I'm just glad we got the captions and the transcript now and the podcast. So the podcast for this week episode will come out next week. But these live versions on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram will be there. So definitely you can rewatch if you caught us at the end and want to listen to this whole conversation. But next week, our topic is going to be nurturing creativity, how parents can empower unique learners at home. And we're going to kind of talk about that, like stirring that creativity within your child. And so you'll definitely want to join us for that. But in the meantime, check out our website at spedhomeschool.com. And we just want to continue encouraging you and your journey to home educate your learner who learns outside the box in maybe a simple way or maybe a drastic way, but we're there for you. And we have lots of resources on our website. Thanks, Sherri. Thanks, Tricia. I've appreciated our conversation. You were a wealth of information and wisdom as I had anticipated. And thank you. And I'm excited about your new book. And thank you for all that you do to support families and just walk the walk.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. God bless. And we'll see you next time on Empowering Homeschool Conversations. Bye, everybody.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com